Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Brutally Honest with Caedmon. Did you know the name Caedmon means wise warrior? I think that's pretty cool. I would like to be seen as a wise warrior. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what I'm doing here. So this is a new thing I'm gonna do. But basically, recently, I read through the book of Matthew. I actually read through it with several family members. It was a thing where we read through it together and shared our thoughts on it. I thought, hey, this this was very fun to do with my family, but you know what also would be very fun? To do this with the entirety of whoever wanted to listen to my thoughts on Matthews. Um, but so basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read through each Matthew, starting from Matthew 1, and I'm gonna just give you kind of the random thoughts I have. Maybe some of it will be things that you can learn. Maybe some of it will just be things I find interesting. It's just gonna be my raw thoughts. It won't be anything too uh, professional or like it's not really gonna be a sermon. Um, Nothing like that. But I'll just go through and I'll share my thoughts, and then um, hopefully, maybe if we could get conversations going about Matthew, maybe I can get you guys excited to read through the book of Matthew yourself, because it's a very good book. I would say, even if um, you're not a Christian, you don't believe that Jesus was real or the Son of God, I think you're wrong about that. But also, I think the book of Matthew is, along with the entire Bible, honestly, is a very interesting book to read regardless. So, hey, maybe if you don't necessarily agree with me, you can still get something from just listening to my raw thoughts. If so, that would be cool. And maybe I could encourage you to start thinking about maybe this is real. Anyway, with all that being said, I'm just going to take Matthew. Will it be one Matthew an episode or several Matthews an episode? I don't know. Some chapters I might have a lot to say, and some chapters I might not have a lot to say. So maybe some episodes will be a Matthew an episode, and maybe some episodes will be up to 5 or 6 Matthews, maybe even 7. So that's what I want to do. That's what this is. That's what you're about to listen to. So I hope you enjoy just my raw thoughts on Matthew. If this goes well, I would like to go through Mark and the rest of the Gospels. Maybe go through the entire New Testament. I would love to do that. Maybe even go through some of the Old Testament in the same way. I would enjoy doing that too. So that's likely what I'm gonna do. Um, as for the interview type conversations that The Brutally Honest was previously built on, I would like to keep doing that. I have several people lined up in my head that I would like to talk about certain topics with, but just finding the time to talk to them um, has been really hard, but I would really like to get back into doing that, so I am going to try to, because I found doing that, one, very fun, and two, very insightful, if not for the people listening, at least for me. So, yeah, I would like to do that some more. And I guess that's all I really have to say. So, without further ado, let's talk about Matthew number 1. So here's what I wrote about Matthew 1, the very first of all the Matthews. Matthew number 1, the first Matthew of all the Matthews. I'm just repeating myself now, but my point is it's the very first Matthew. There's Matthews that come after it, but none that come before it. It's the first chapter of Matthew number 1. Yeah. So here's what I wrote. My main takeaway from this was God plays the long game. Oftentimes, when God reveals something to us, we expect to see the results right away. But it took a long time before Jesus came around. Also, this could point towards God's master plan, destiny, and I have destiny in quotation marks. Especially with the inclusion of Rahab, who would have likely been killed if the spies didn't show up at her house. Whether it's the case it was destiny / God's master plan, I do not know, nor do I know if Rahab necessarily had to be part of Jesus' genealogy, or if she just happened to. I also don't know that, but hey, I'm just throwing out my raw thoughts here. So that's what I took away from Matthew 1. Yeah, so it's basically God's master plan. That's the thing. I believe I've talked about this on the podcast before, but it's basically the idea that that everything that happens for a reason. It's all planned by God, and we know from the Bible that God plans out good works for us to do in advance. So that's one verse that points to God's master plan. It's interesting. Think about it. Here's what I wrote about Matthew 2. The second Matthew, it has Matthews before and after it. I wrote, my main takeaway from this one was kind of similar to the last one. The star makes me think of God's master plan, how all of the planets and everything had to line up just right to lead the Magi to Jesus. Now, it's very interesting to me that I keep having this kind of takeaway, because I tend to believe in destiny in quotation marks / God's master plan a lot less than most people. Some people may believe that every time you sneeze, it's because that was part of God's master plan. Like, maybe your boogers will get on someone, and then the person next to them will offer them a Kleenex, and that person happens to be a heavy evangelist that will evangelize to that person and end up discipling them, leading them to Christ, and it's all because it was part of God's plan that you sneezed on that person. Also, cover your nose, you weirdo. That's really gross. You're just going around sneezing on people just randomly. But with that being said, I don't believe that's the way it works. Generally speaking, but part of me does think, well, maybe Jesus's birth, like, that's the most important thing that ever happened in the history of history. Um, so maybe, uh, whereas a lot of things, it doesn't matter so much, but all the pieces had to come perfectly, for the birth of Jesus, and I don't find that too hard to believe that maybe certain things are part of God's plan and other things aren't. Jesus' birth was, at least to a certain extent, with the prophecies about it and everything. So, yeah, that's something for you to think about. Also, something else that stuck out to me in this Matthew is a lot of people are having dreams. So that begs the question, do my dreams mean things? Do your dreams mean things? I don't know. Um, but it's worth thinking about, and maybe we shouldn't be so quick to just dismiss dreams. Now, I think there's also a danger in that where it's like, oh, everything I dream um, means a certain a particular thing. And it's like, well, no, I think there is a natural side of dreaming where you'll just dream things because you're thinking about it before you go to bed. And if so, um, I mean, like, so don't be like, oh yeah, every single thing I dream is it has a meaning, and I should maybe I should do this thing that I did in my dream. I should do it in real life because that's what God's trying to tell me with that dream. Just be careful, basically, with your dreams, is what I'm gonna say. But I want to encourage you to maybe not be so quick to dismiss every single dream as just being that natural dream that I was talking about. Um, Because, look, as far as I know, and I'm willing to stand corrected on this, but as far as I know, the Bible never really says, and from this point forwards, God stopped talking to people in dreams. Um, but I would I would be weary of when you believe God talks to you in dreams. So that's my takeaway from Matthew 2. That's just some stuff for you to think about. So here is Matthew 3, the third of the Matthews. There's two Matthews before it, and there's more Matthews after it. So on this one, I don't have a lot to say, but what do you think it means to fulfill all righteousness? That's 15. Matthew 3:15 is what I'm talking about there. Um, but then also, verse 8, produce fruit in keeping with repentance. So we should do that. And that's my takeaway from Matthew 3. There you go. Okay, so that was my thoughts on Matthews 1, 2, and 3. I hope you enjoyed listening to my thoughts on Matthews 1, 2, and 3. I enjoyed talking about my thoughts on Matthews 1, 2, and 3. I would love to hear your thoughts on Matthews 1, 2, and 3. But anyway, I'm gonna at least finish through the entirety of the book of Matthew. I'm not sure how long that will take me. I'm not sure how often I'll put out another episode. I'm not sure if there will be interviews in the middle of my Matthew series, but I am going to uh, finish Matthew, assuming it's in God's plan for me to do so. Um, but so anyway, if you liked listening to me just kind of rambling on what I thought of these three lovely Matthews, then you can subscribe and you're gonna hear the rest of my thoughts on the rest of Matthew's. But yeah, I enjoy um, kind of this style of just uh, going through and sharing my thoughts and connections I will make and stuff. So hopefully, you guys, the listeners, whoever you are, hopefully you'll enjoy that too. Um, but with that being said, that's Matthew 1, 2, and 3 for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you listen to the next episode where maybe I'll at least talk about Matthew 4, and maybe I'll talk about Matthew 5 and Matthew 6 and Matthew 7 and Matthew 8. I mean, we'll see, guys. But um with that being said, yeah, read the Matthews. Um you know, if you want to, um, start up some conversations among your friends about the Matthews. I think, um, I think reading through the Bible is the most important thing you can do. Um, I think pastors can have insight on Matthew's. Sorry, they can have insight on the Bible, which includes Matthew's, but they can have insight on the Bible. But the most important thing is that you're reading the Bible for yourself and you have your own relationship with God. Um, I would like to remind you, lovely folks, about James 1:22. Do not merely listen to the word as to deceive yourself. Do what it says. So, with that being said, looking into the Bible and actually following what it says, that's more important than just going to church every Sunday. I believe going to church on Sunday is a good idea. Not necessarily on Sunday, but at least once a week. Uh, that's that's my thoughts. Ultimately, what I want to do is just do my best to encourage you to look into the Bible. So hopefully, I can do that with this. I think it's really interesting to look into the Bible. I think it's really cool. I think you should do it. If you don't do it, then shame on you. Bye.